Namaste, everybody. Welcome to this practice about kindness. This session is looking at kindness to yourself, because however kind you would like to be to others, I really believe that unless you are kind and gentle and loving to yourself, that's going to be very difficult. It's just like respecting others. You have to have respect for yourself in order to give that respect to others. So you might need a block. So maybe have a yoga block handy, and then come to sitting to start with. Comfortable seated position. Draw the spine up nice and tall. Think about the crown of the head lifting up. Close your eyes or gentle gaze down at the floor. Relax those shoulders away from the ears, and have the hands in a comfortable position, either in your lap or on your thighs or knees. Let those sitting bones settle down into the earth. Feel really grounded. Back of the neck long as that head floats up to the sky. And bring your attention to the breath. Notice the natural rhythm of the breath coming in and going out of the body through the nostrils, if that's okay with you. Feel the effects of the breath on the body. As you breathe in, feel an expansion. And as you exhale, a relaxing and quieting. Notice any pauses as you become more aware of the breath. Maybe the inhales can start to deepen. There might be a little pause before you exhale out. And then again at the end of the long exhale, perhaps there's that little pause before you feel the need to inhale again. And I'd like you to ask yourself, how are you? How are you doing? How are things going for you today? We often see other people, and it's something we'll naturally ask, how are you doing? But how often do we stop and ask ourselves that question and be honest about the answer? So be gentle with yourself. See what's right for you today. And then with small wriggles of the fingers, let's think about freeing up our joints. So being gentle with ourselves, you're always welcome to do this before you start any yoga class. Wiggling the fingers and then circling the wrists one way and the other. See if there's any clicks and crackles there. And then rolling the shoulders, lovely big shoulder rolls back, opening the chest. You can roll them forward as well if you like, but normally that opening, the rolling of them up and back and down is what we need in our body. And then have a little stretch out of the legs in front of you. You can stay up on a block or blanket if you'd like to. I want you to take the feet out wide today. So often we take them straight out, but come to a wide seated forward fold with the toes reaching up to the ceiling. So the foot is a little bit flexed and the feet as wide enough apart. So as there's a little bit of work going on around the thighs and the hips, but you're not in agony. I want you to be able to sit here for quite a few breaths. Good. And we're going to take a benchmark at the beginning of the class, see if this posture feels any different at the end of the class. We're going to do a forward fold, okay? And a wide-legged forward fold is normally quite a good way of feeling how tight those hamstrings and leg muscles are, as well as the back. So bring your tips of your fingers lightly to the floor. A nice big inhale is going to elongate the back, lengthen the sides of the body, and then a little hinge forward on the exhale. So you feel some resistance. Doesn't matter if you're near the floor or almost still vertical. And then bend the knees, inhale again. Get that lovely length in the spine. Try and keep a flat back for these first few breaths at least. Hinge forward, maybe a little more. Can you straighten the legs as you exhale? And then again, release the knees. Inhale. And hinging forward as far as you can for now, bringing the chest forward. And at that point where you think, no, I'd have to round my back to go further, straighten out the legs, let the head release. The back's going to round a little bit. I want you to spend 4 deep, slow, deliberate breaths here. Maybe just releasing the knees a little on the inhale. See if you can get that long back again. And the exhale, hinging forward at the hips, seeing where that resistance is, where your edge is today. Keep the toes pointing up to the ceiling. Good. And anytime during the class today, if you want to exhale the breath through the mouth to create that extra release in our practice, if that helps, please do. So let's have one more. Exhale out. See if you can soften into the posture and then walk your hands back towards the hips, coming upright, maybe just a little shake of the legs. I'm going to do one more thing with this wide seated posture. So inhale, let's take the arms out to the side. We're going to take a little twist. As you exhale, right hand points towards the left toes. It might land on the leg, on the shin, it might touch the toes, doesn't matter. Inhale up to the center. Exhale, left hand towards the right toes. And this nice twist in the body. Let one more time each side, coming up through the center on the inhale, rotating around on the exhale. In your own breath length, so there's no rush. Reaching towards the other toes. And when you next come up through the center, bring the hands down. Let your hands collect the legs behind the back of the knees. Ease them together and give them a little hug before we come onto all fours, tabletop position. So settling with hands under shoulders, knees under hips, lovely long spine. Reach that crown of the head forward and the sit bones back, spread into the hands, press down into the fingers. Nice big inhale there. On the exhale, reach the back up to the ceiling. Draw the tummy up for a cat stretch. Let the head hang down. And then inhale, tilt the hips forward. Wave through the spine to lift the heart, lift the head. And you keep going with this at your pace. Start with the hips, finish with the head, either lifting or dropping. Warming up the spine. Couple more times. And then when you're ready to, on an exhale, as you round the back, start taking the hips towards the heels and come down to child pose. Bring the arms in whichever position suits you best. So maybe hands under head. Maybe you like the arms stretching out in front or even down beside the body so that the hands end up near to the feet. And you can have the knees together or wider apart, really releasing and relaxing down. So for me, child pose is this ultimate act of kindness in a yoga class in order to feel restored, refreshed, renewed, ready to continue. So you know you're always welcome to come into this posture. Today, I'd like you to, again, breathe deeply into it, release those exhales and see if you can soften across the back as well as long down the back, down the spine. Can you soften across so that the shoulder blades feel like they're spacing out away from each other? Your hips are soft. With every exhale, can you soften down a little more towards the floor? try and find this softness and kindness to yourself, whichever postures we're in today. So coming back up to all fours, I want you to take the right foot out behind you, not lifting it at hip level today, but touching the toes onto the floor. So we're tucking the toes and stretching through the back heel so that you're getting a lovely stretch through the body from the back heel to the crown of the head. Elongating the body. Good. Inhale there. And then as you exhale, sweep the toes around the floor in an arc, looking over your left shoulder to see if you can see the toes. Doesn't matter if you can't. Getting this side curve in the body, a lovely C shape. And breathe into the right side of your body as it opens out. Think of the ribs spacing out. Inhaling, exhaling. And then on your next inhale, swoop those toes all the way around in a big arc so that the foot comes out to the side this time. So you've got the left knee under the left hip, the right leg is extended out to the side, ready to work in our gate pose. So ideally, the foot presses into the floor, the toes point forward, but you can modify that a little as you want to. And when you're ready, if you want to pad up the knee, do so. Rise up to a high kneeling posture. Okay, so we're going to inhale, lift the arms. On the exhale, I want you to reach towards that right leg. Come over into your side stretch here. Stay for 3 breaths. Good. So try to have that left arm lifted over the top of the left ear. The heart is spinning up to the ceiling. And maybe with each exhale, the fingers slide a tiny bit more down the leg. Maybe they don't. Maybe you rise up a little bit in order to do that. Last time. Next inhale, we're going to lift both arms up and go over to the other side. So take your time, find the floor, and come over into this diagonal stretch in the opposite direction. Again, trying to open up the side body in a different way. So this isn't so much of a curve, it's a straight line. Reach the fingers away from the side of that right foot. Press the foot into the ground. Good, nice deep breath. On an inhale, we're going to rise it up again. And bring the hands down. Come back down into kneeling. On all fours, take a pause there. See how that feels in your body. The gaze is down between the hands to keep this lovely length in the back of the neck. And then we're going to take the left foot back behind us. Toes push into the floor. And try and find some distance between that back heel, reaching towards the wall behind you, and crown of your head reaching away in front of you. Nice big inhale into that stretch, and then exhale, sweep the toes around to your right. Look over your right shoulder. Hold this for a couple of lovely deep breaths. Think, can I send the breath into the left side of my ribs? Can I make the body a little longer in this beautiful arc? And then inhale as you are. On the exhale, sweep the foot all the way around to the other side. Ready for our gate pose. So now the right knee is directly under the right hip. And we see what we can do with our left foot, pressing it into the ground as best you can with the toes pointed forward, but the hip has to be comfortable. Lovely. Inhale, lift the arms up. Exhale, over we go towards that straight leg. Our classic gate pose. And reaching those fingers down the leg, but keeping space. So don't let this side crunch up. We're trying to open up the right side, yes, but elongate the left side so that it's not crunched as well. And then up we float on an inhale. And over you go, the other side, a different type of stretch. So we've done a curve and a diagonal stretch now on each side. Can you press into the left side of the foot as you reach the fingertips away. Great stuff. Inhale now as you lift both arms up. And exhale, bring the hands down to the ground. You can ease yourself all the way back into child pose for a couple of breaths if you'd like to. Otherwise, swaying the hips in our tabletop pose. All the time noticing, is this the right thing for my body? Am I working just at the right level? Working to your edge, deciding whether you're pushing the edge today or keeping well away from it. And then rising up again to all fours. You're going to take a little circle as though you've got a pencil in your belly button and you want to draw a circle on your mat. So gently coming forward a little, then over to the side, back and round. Round in a circle like you're drawing the face of a clock. And when you're next near the front, pausing and reversing that movement. Getting some work into the hips and the shoulders, ready for our thread the needle posture. So pausing there. And we're going to lift the left hand first of all, just for a test. We're not going to settle in thread the needle first of all. Lifting the left hand out to the side and up. As you exhale, thread it under the opposite hand. Come down towards the floor, but don't settle there. Inhale, up again. Good. You can always do this on your forearm instead of your palm. Good. This time we're going to come and rest. So thread the arm under. Bring your left shoulder, your left cheek down to the ground. Your hips are up in the air. And you can shuffle the knees forward or back. Make yourself comfortable in this twist. You decide whether to thread the arm, the left arm further under, almost coming onto the back of your shoulder, or you can reverse out of it a little so that you're more facing the floor. And your right hand now, you can stay on the palm, you can rest the forearm down, or you can lift the right hand out to your side, turn the palm up to the sky, and place the back of your hand onto the back of your left hip. And this opens up the shoulder a little more, the right shoulder, and it accentuates the twist. So if you don't want to go further into the twist, please keep your hand down on the floor. Your left hand, your left arm should be relaxed, palm facing up to the sky. And again, use the exhales here to work in this posture and soften down. Can you breathe space into areas where there's tightness and breathe out, allow that tension to melt away. 2 more deep conscious breaths on this side. And then make sure that your right hand is coming back beside the face. Press the palm into the floor. Inhale, left hand comes out to the side and up. And exhale back to all fours. Lovely. So take a moment in between sides. See how that feels on one side of the body compared to the other. And then we'll do the same the other side. Inhale the right hand out and up. Exhale, come into the twist. We're not settling on this side. Just let the hands and the arms skim the floor, testing how that feels in your body. Then come back again, inhaling, reaching out through those right fingertips before you exhale, threading the arm under. Let that right arm come to settle on the ground, along with your right shoulder and your right cheek now. And take a couple of breaths there, shuffling knees back or forward, close together, wider apart, before you then decide what to do with your left hand. So it can support you, can be back close to the face, or you might want to swoop it out to the side and bring it onto your lower back. So left hand on the back of the right hip in your twist. And breathe. And observe whether one side is tighter than the other. So we're all asymmetrical, our bodies are different. So maybe the left shoulder lifts up more than the right shoulder did, or you can come deeper into the twist more comfortably, or not as much so on this side. Just observing, no judgment. 2 more big, slow, deep breaths. And when you're ready, bringing your left hand down beside the face, pressing the palm into the mat, unwinding, unraveling, lifting up, having a lovely stretch out before coming back to all fours. Good. And then get ready to either come into puppy dog or downward facing dog. So you're either walking the hands a long way in front, keeping the hips over the knees for our puppy dog, or a little way in front, tuck the toes and lift the hips. And you can walk out the legs, pressing the heels into the ground one at a time. You can have a sway of the hips, do whatever feels good for you. If you don't like staying in down dog too long, then feel free to come in and out of it, coming onto your knees for a breath, then coming back out again. Let the neck be free. So the ears are between the upper arms, nice long back of the neck. Remembering this posture is about lengthening the back of the body. It doesn't matter if the heels don't get to the floor. And then slowly walking forward into a forward fold, keeping the head down unless you know that's not for you, in which case bring the hands onto the thighs and stay a little higher up. Otherwise, let the crown of the head dangle down low, and fingertips can be on the floor or in midair or holding opposite elbows. And have a nice little gentle sway there, releasing the head by a little shake, a little gentle nod. Again, let's see how those hamstrings are. So everyone bringing their hands onto their shins, bend the knees a little and come up into a half forward fold. So coming up halfway, good. Nice big inhale there. And as you exhale, start to straighten the legs, bringing the crown of the head down, and the hands can drop down into your forward fold. Do that twice more. So bending the knees, rising up halfway. You take your time, do it with your breath, and exhale into the bow, letting the head go. The back will round at the last bit of the posture, that's fine. And then when you're back in a forward fold, get ready to roll up the spine. So pressing the feet into the floor, hip width apart, little knee bend, climbing up through each of the vertebrae and bringing the head up last. Maybe the shoulders, have another little roll when we arrive at the top, no rush. Palms face forward so that we lift and open the chest and we're in our mountain pose. And I want you to work in mountain today. So it's not just standing upright on the mat. I want you to think about lifting and spreading your toes out, making your feet as wide as they can be, and let your weight drop down into the mat. So if you were to move now, there would be big indents where your feet had been. So feel that connection with the earth. And then from that connection, there's a little rebound. What we want to do is imagine you were going to move your feet out to the side. They're not going to move anywhere, but thinking about taking the feet wider apart, you might suddenly feel the muscles of the legs engage. And this is going to bring energy into the legs. So lifting the thighs up towards the hips, tuck the tailbone under. This will help draw the tummy in and up, opening the chest, reaching those fingers down to the ground. Chin is slightly tucked maybe. We want it level with the ground, so not looking up to the sky, not super tucked down to your chest. Shoulders dropped away from the ears, and the crown of the head floats up. So like the mountain, you're grounded into the floor, reaching tall up into the sky. Breathe there. Can you just soften up a tiny bit so the legs aren't locked and there's no tension in the arms or the jaw or the shoulders? Lovely. And that's your true Tadasana. Going to take a turn to the left, ready for warrior two. So you turn to your left, take a big wide stride on your mat, and then turn your right foot to the front. If you want to adjust that back foot so it's on a slight angle rather than pointing straight forward, what is comfortable in your hips so they feel nice and wide and open. And then inhale, lift the arms shoulder height, look down that right arm, exhale, bend the right knee and come into your warrior two. And take a few breaths here. Anytime your shoulders get tired, you can bring the hands to the hips. I want you to think, inhale, drawing energy up from the floor. Exhale, can I sink deeper down into my hips so that it's comfortable, but so that you're working. So this strong warrior today. Ideally, the knee is over the ankle. Don't let it be inside or outside or massively over the toes. And try that drawing the feet together again, like we did in Tadasana. Does that energize this posture? If you want to have a brick for triangle pose, reach for your brick at this point. And then we're going to inhale, straighten that right leg. And as we exhale, reach forward, 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 then down. And your hand is either coming to the floor, the leg, or onto a block. And what this does, it allows us now to position ourselves. So forget the top arm going up at the moment, keep it on the hip and roll that top shoulder back. So we're trying to get ourselves in as straight a line as possible, as though there's a wall behind us that we're sticking ourselves onto. Breathing there. And then if you want to, the top hand will just float up. If it doesn't want to float up, don't force it. Bring it back to the hip. Reach out with the fingertips. And every limb is reaching out away from your center on the inhale. The inhale is where you take your triangle shape. The exhale, you can soften, bend that front knee a little, maybe release the top hand, and then find it again. So enjoy playing in your postures, not locking into them. Remember kindness. We're going to take one more big breath in our triangle and then swoop up to warrior two. Lovely. Come back into warrior two. Maybe your shoulders are feeling the work now. Remember, you've got the option to bring the hands onto the hips. Now we're going to take it into side angle instead. So keep that front knee bent. Inhale here in warrior two. Exhale, bring your right forearm down onto the right thigh. And the arm can stay on the hip. It can swoop up to the sky, or it might even reach over the head, level with the top ear. Okay, and don't let this bottom hand just dangle there. Feel energy, so maybe stretching out through the fingertips. Breathing in, breathing out. Can you press into the outside of your left foot and reach up through those fingertips? One more big breath here. And then exhale. Bring the hands to frame that front foot. Swivel the back foot round so you're in a runner's lunge. And you can stay in runner's lunge for a couple of breaths, or you can drop the back knee down. Don't mind. So low lunge or high lunge. Make sure the front knee is over the ankle, and we're going to breathe here. So inhaling, lift the chest forward, find that length in the body. Exhale, soften and drop the hips a little. Good. And again. And don't let the lumbar spine take any of the strain. Keep that core engagement. Little tuck in the tailbone will help keep this area relaxed. Lovely. We're going to step forward. So push off with the back foot into a forward fold. Take a couple of breaths there. Decide whether feet are going to be hip width apart or closer together. And you can either roll up like we did before, or you might want to keep the back straighter, lifting head, chest for a straight back. Bend those knees though, whichever option you choose to rise up. And come back to Tadasana. So however you've come to standing, come back to your mountain pose. And settle there, scan the body. Maybe one side you can feel the work that we've done. Maybe the breath starts to become deeper. Maybe the heart rate is raised. Noticing what's going on in the body. And then take a turn to your right. Nice wide stride. And we're going to turn your left toes to the front of the mat this time. Again, adjusting the back foot. So you get the right angle. And if you feel wobbly in your warriors, try heel toeing out that front foot so that the heel is more in line with the back heel rather than the front heel being in line with the front arch. Inhale when you're ready. Take those arms up, shoulder height. Look down the left arm as you exhale. Bend the left knee. Strike your warrior pose. And again, think about the alignment we were talking about for Tadasana. So you can draw the feet towards each other. That energizes the legs. You can zip up the tummy by tucking the tailbone down and zipping up the tummy. You get this lovely tilt in the hips so your bum's not sticking out. And then the chest is lifted, shoulders are over the hips, and the crown of the head floats up, chin's level with the floor, and the gaze is strong and steady. Every exhale, can you release a little more into your warrior? Beautiful. And then take triangle pose. Remember, if you want a block, grab it now. You're going to inhale, straighten the left leg. Exhale, reach forward. So really hinging in that left top of the leg, and then let the hand float down and land wherever it lands. Top hand comes to the hip, and we roll that right shoulder back. Can you extend the crown of the head away from the shoulders? Press down into the legs. If you feel stable, then you can lift the top hand, and you can look up at it, or look sideways, or look down. And then allow yourself a little lila, a little play, bending, and then opening, softening, and then stretching. The inhale is where we do the work with our triangle pose. Feel alive. Great stuff. Ready to rise up on an inhale, bending the left knee, come back to warrior two again. Do you need to take those hands to the hips? Don't be afraid to if you want to. Your shoulders will tell you. And then we're going to come into our side angle. So inhale here, exhale, left arm comes down to the left thigh. Set yourself up, get this lovely diagonal, reach through the body and decide if the arm's going up in the air, over the head, or coming to the hip. Press into the outside edge of the right foot and think, could I come and put a broom through the middle of your body? Would it be in a lovely straight line? Reach those fingertips away and keep that other hand alive. Everything's engaged and working. Really good. Big breath to finish. Exhale, hands coming down to frame the front foot. Turn the back toes into your low lunge, dropping the knee, or keep it up for a runner's lunge with the knee off of the floor. Checking, front knee is over the ankle. We stack joints on joints. And breathe here. Can you drop the hips a little more on the exhale? Open the heart forwards on the inhale. It really enlivens the posture, brightens it up, and then soften into the hips a little more on the exhale. We're not going to step forward, we're going to step back this time. So press into your palms, step that front foot back into down dog. You can stay here for a few breaths or come to kneeling and or child. So you've got about 4 breaths. You decide how long you want to stay in each posture. Use those long exhales to sigh out the breath if that feels nice for you. And then everybody, wherever you are, come into child pose. Reaching the hands forward, so the fingers forward, and thinking about how you'd like to travel into cobra from this posture. So if you know the variation, you can slither along the mat. Otherwise, I want you to rise up to all fours and bending the elbows back, not out to the side, drop the hips forward and you're in your cobra. And this could be a high cobra, it could be a low cobra. If you prefer, it could be Sphinx on your forearm. Few breaths here, gentle sway of the hips perhaps to ease yourself into this posture. The chest lifts up on the inhale. And then hands under shoulders. I'm going to come back through kneeling, tuck the toes and lift into downward facing dog. And then dropping onto your knees, lift the heart, lift the head for cow pose. Good, and then sink back to child. We've got 4 postures there I want you to work through in a Shakti flow, an energy flow. So from child pose, on an inhale, you choose how you come into cobra. Maybe you come along the mat and up, or maybe you let the hips drop down into it. On the exhale, you tuck the toes and come into downward facing dog. On your next inhale, knees come to the floor, lift the heart, lift the head, and then ease it back to child pose. So I want you to go through this 3 or 4 times on your own. Cobra, down dog, cow, child. Working with your breath, deciding how much of a stretch, how much you push things to the edge in each posture. It could be really subtle, or it could be quite big movements. Traveling through these poses. Finishing again in child pose, there's no rush. Resting down. And that full posture movement is a lovely little stretch and wake up to do in the morning if you want to. It's kind of the middle section of our Surya Namaskar, our sun salutation. So do take that if you've just got a few minutes and you think, I want to do some yoga. It's a nice sequence to do. For now, we're going to come back to a forward fold. So I want you to lift up, and maybe it's through down dog. You come into your forward fold. Maybe not if you don't like that. Having a little dangle, I want you to see how those hamstrings are feeling at the moment. So bending the knees, hands can stay near the floor or maybe on the shins. Lift up halfway, inhale, exhale, bow down. How does that feel compared to your first time we did it. Couple more times again, inhaling, exhaling. And then thinking, when you're in a forward fold, how do I want to rise up? Pressing down into the ground, root down, rise up on an inhale. And come into Tadasana once more. Lovely. So let's see how the balance is going today. I'm going to do a Warrior 3 balance, which is the one where we tilt forward. You can come a tiny bit forward or go into a T shape. I want you to think about pressing down into the left leg first. So get that foot nice and wide, sending roots down into the ground, and take the right toes behind the left foot, so a good step behind the left foot. So you're balanced on your tiptoes on the right foot, pressing down into the left foot. Hands can start beside that back leg, so at the same angle as the back leg, and then reach up through the crown of your head. And the whole body wants to tilt as one, so no bending forward with the foot still low. When you're ready, lifting off the back toes, you decide how far and how fast you want to come into this posture. You can experiment by flexing the back foot or pointing it. What's best for you? Check those hips are level to the floor. It's really tempting to lift the right leg up higher, the right hip higher. Maybe the hands come out to the side in an aeroplane type pose, and you breathe. Back toes point down to the floor. You might have to inwardly rotate the thighs in order to get that. When you're ready, let it be a dignified inhale, exhale to come up and place the foot down. And spend a couple of breaths feeling, how did that leg feel? Taking all of your weight before we shift it to the other side. And now the right foot is going to be the standing leg. The left toes go back behind you. Feel this rod of steel through the body as you engage all of the muscles by reaching the fingertips towards that back foot. And when you're ready to, let the back toes take off and explore your balance. Might be completely different on one side to the other. Trying to keep the hips facing the floor, those back toes pointing towards the floor. See if you can have a micro bend in the standing leg, just like when we do our tree pose. This makes sure that the muscles are working and you're not just locking the knee. Keep the breath slow and steady if you can. And just when you think, I can't stay here any longer, rise up, coming up, letting the foot settle on the floor. Excellent. And coming back to Tadasana. Drop those shoulders away from the ears. Lovely. Okay, we're going to do some squats now. Good for the thigh muscles and for oiling the joints. If your knees are not great and you don't like squats, please keep them shallow. So that means keep them high up. Otherwise, you can go down as low as you want. Start with a wide stance and maybe the toes are pointed out at a little bit of an angle. And hands can be on the hips or the thighs, whichever you prefer. Let's inhale, lengthen the body first. Exhale, just try a little squat to start with, bringing the hips down, trying to keep the torso lifted, and then inhale up again. A couple more like that, maybe going a little lower, exhaling, good. You're going to tilt a little bit forward, but try not to let the back round. And then we're going to do it one more time and stay there. So maybe you want to come down low. You can go right down into Malasana, our goddess squat, or you can stay up high. and hands can stay on the thighs, the floor, or maybe wherever you are, you come to the heart. So you can be here, that's absolutely fine, hands at the heart. I want you to feel a little bit of work in the thighs. Normally after the second or third breath, you start thinking, oh yes, this is what that posture is about. So breathe through it. Remember, we're trying to be kind to ourselves. So if you want to sit back, that's where we're heading in a moment. You can get there ahead of us. Good. One more breath if you can. On the exhale, let the hands help you down to the floor, ease you down to sitting, and take a moment there, sitting however is comfortable for you. I want to show you a couple of options for our pigeon pose. So pigeon is the one where we bring one knee forward. You can do this from kneeling. You can slide the leg along the floor, or you can do it from down dog, coming into a three-legged dog, sweeping the knee forward. There's actually more room to do it like that, but I know not everyone wants to take downward facing dog. If you get here and think this really isn't right for my body, my knees, my hips, a lovely option is to lie on your back, take the ankle to the opposite knee, and we've got the same stretch going on. And you can lift the other foot off the floor. So reverse pigeon gives you the same work in a different way. So you decide how you're going to start, on all fours, in downward facing dog, or lying on your back. Get yourself nice and square. Have the knees maybe a little bit closer to each other than we often do in tabletop. If you're coming up to down dog, lifting the hips, it will be the right foot going back behind you to start with. Look towards your right thumb and swing the right knee over to the right thumb and let the right foot settle at whatever angle is right for you. Okay, so the more the foot comes towards the front of the mat, the more the stretch on that hip. So get comfy. You can always take a block or a blanket, pop it under that lifted hip, and that might give you some support. Slide the left foot back behind you, nice straight left leg if you can. Engage core muscles, broaden and widen across the sacrum. And then we're going to come into our lying swan pose. If you'd like to, walk the hands forward. Think chest comes forward, keep that lovely length in the body. You might come down to forearms. You might want to go further than that, maybe bringing your head onto the mat. And what we're looking for is some work around that right thigh, that right hip. And every exhale here can help soften down into the posture. Every inhale, send some love and kindness into that right hip. A nice juicy stretch. If it's painful in any way, please flip over and try the reverse pigeon. Use the breath to keep the mind calm and soothed. Let the head release, the shoulders release. One more big breath, however you're working with this posture. And then use the hands to walk yourself back up to an upright pigeon. Tuck the back toes under and lift that front leg out of the pose. And you can walk out the legs in down dog or sway the hips and stretch the legs from a kneeling posture. If you want to, flip yourself onto your back for the other side. So preparing to start again, either from kneeling or from downward facing dog. This time the left leg is lifting backwards and then looking towards your left thumb, swing the left knee towards it, let the shins settle on the ground. And if you flex the front foot a little, then you'll support the knee joint. All the muscles are engaged and the knee joint will be more supported. So see how that feels. And up in our pigeon pose, we puff out our pigeon chest. So lifting the chest forward, drawing in the tummy muscles and the side muscles, all of our core muscles to ease that lower back. And then if you want to continue to your lying swan. Again, you can have a block under your left hip or maybe under your head to rest down onto. Take it slow, that journey down to the mat. There's no rush. And then when you get there, use the breath to release a little bit more. So the right leg stretches back in a straight line. The left leg is where the action is. We're breathing some love and kindness into that left hip and thigh. If you're not feeling any sensation, then you can rise up and help that foot forward a little bit. That will certainly increase the stretch, working in whatever way is best for you. Couple more breaths here. And then the support of the hands will walk you more upright. Tuck the back toes and lift yourself up to free that front leg. Walk it out in down dog or come down onto the floor and stretch the legs out behind you. Let's come down to kneeling. If you want to, take a couple of breaths in child pose. If you prefer, you can come around to sitting in a comfortable position and we'll meet you there. Otherwise, nice big sighs out in your child. And then I want you to ease yourself back into your wide-legged seated pose. So if you want to get something under your hips, a blanket or a block under your hips, please do. And see how this feels, our second visit to this posture. So is it more comfortable to have the legs wide and the toes pointed up to the ceiling? Perhaps you feel you can take them wider than before. Perhaps not, but it's more comfortable than it was before. Just observe that for a moment. And then we're going to take our forward fold. Remember, there's no destination to get to. It's all observation. Bringing the fingertips to the floor. Nice big inhale as we lengthen up through the spine and hinge forward. A little way to start with. Bend the knees. Inhale, long spine. Exhale, inch forward a little more. And again, inhale, little bend of the knees. On the exhale, can you straighten the legs and soften into the posture, staying here now for 4 more breaths. And if you notice yourself forcing in this posture, I want you to deliberately ease off. Maybe bend the knees, rise up a little, and then soften down into it again. Okay. This posture is definitely a case of depth over time. If you rush it, you'll end up with the muscles just aching tomorrow. There's not going to be a lot of gain. We're looking for flexibility over time. Last long exhale here, taking a final bow to this pose. And using your hands to walk yourself back upright. Guide your legs in again. Gently ease them in. You can hug them here, or you can come straight down to lying on your back and hug them over your chest, whichever you would prefer. So we're heading down towards our relaxation, nearly there. We're going to do bridge pose before that to give the back a lovely stretch out. So coming to our 2-foot support where the heels are close to the hips, but not lifted off the floor. So you want soles of the feet on the floor, palms of the hands down beside the hips, nice relaxed shoulders, neck, head, and then pressing into the feet, lift the tailbone, roll up the spine towards your shoulders into your bridge pose. On the exhale, engage the core muscles, control the roll back down, one vertebra at a time if you can. Let the hips come down last and repeat. So tucking that tailbone under, lifting the hips, opening the heart, top of the pose, and then slowly guiding the back down onto the mat, letting it be the hips that rest last time. You can do that once more and stay up in the posture for a breath, or a couple more times dynamically, whichever suits you. Are those knees still pointing up to the ceiling? Don't let them flop apart. So a little internal rotation in the thighs is going to help that. And then the last exhale, coming down to the floor. Let the hips spread wide. Feel the whole back of the body relax and release into the mat. And you decide whether to stay here, maybe bringing the knees together or extending the legs out long, letting the toes drop out to the side for our classic Shavasana. See how it feels to turn the palms up to the sky, have a little wriggle of shoulders and hips, and allow the eyes to close. And if that's not for you, you find any relaxation position that allows you to feel comfy, allows you to let go. And we're going to offer ourselves some kindness here as you let the muscles release, relaxing the jaw, the shoulders, the hips, feeling gravity taking you into the ground and the support of the mat underneath you. I want you to feel like a soft warmth is enveloping the body. And we're going to start with our attention at the tips of the toes and feel this warmth moving up through the body. So allow the toes to soften and relax as warmth spreads over the soles of the feet and the tops of the feet, up through the ankles, the lower legs, around the knees and the thighs. Let this warmth spread over your hips, all around the pelvis. Let the muscles there relax. Tummy is soft and warm. The lower back released. Sides of the ribs, up over the chest and the back, across the shoulder blades, up across the top of the backs of the shoulders, across the collarbone at the front and across the tops of the shoulders. Let this warm softness flow all the way down your arms now. Down right to the hands, palms, the backs of the hands, and to the tips of the fingers. Lovely warm softness flowing back up the arms, into the shoulders, all around the back of the neck, the throat, and the back of the head on the floor. Like a cozy hood being pulled up around you. Let the jaw release, feel snuggly and cozy. The skin on the face relax. The tongue feels soft in the mouth. Any furrows on your brows ease. And the top of your head feels cozy and warm, like you're in one of those igloo sleeping bags, but it's comfortable and relaxed. Like giving yourself a big warm hug. Let this feeling of warmth and safety and peacefulness envelop your whole body. Your whole body. Offering yourself this kindness, allowing little movements to come into the fingertips and the toes as you take 3 deep breaths, inhaling through the nose, exhaling out through the mouth, maybe stretching your limbs. If it feels nice, hugging the knees into the chest. And rolling onto your sides, no rush. When you're ready, pressing yourself back up to a seated position. And we'll finish by bringing the hands to the heart. And on an inhale, sweeping them out to the side and up. On an exhale, bringing them down in front of the heart space. Taking a bow to your practice, to offering yourself some kindness. Namaste.